Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our latest live video. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Caren from KreativeInc agency today, and we'll get Caren to introduce herself in a minute. But I guess the general subject we're going to talk about today is about accessible websites, and Karen's going to tell us kind of what that exactly means and why it's important as we go through. And yeah, so as ever with these, we're on various different social media platforms. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, please, if you've got any questions or any comments for us, we're happy to take them and listen to them. We'll get through as many of them as possible. If you do have any questions around accessible websites, I'm more than happy to put those to Caren. For anybody who's watching it later, I know a lot of people watch it when it's not live. Again, feel free to put the questions in, and I'm sure we'll answer them afterwards. I'll be happy to put those to Caren, and I'm sure that she'll be able to answer many questions that you have. So whether you're live or you're not, we'd love to hear them. So without further ado, Caren, if you just want to kind of explain who you are, what you guys do, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Caren, and I'm part of a mother and son team. My son Callum, who's autistic, and we started KreativeInc agency in 2019 after Callum had a bad experience with an employer who knew that he was autistic but didn't make any reasonable adjustments for him. And so we decided just to set up on our own and to take that as a positive opportunity. And we started our own web agency. Now, we are WordPress web developers, but with a bit of a difference. We do accessible websites, and what that is, I'm going to explain a bit later. Now, we have evolved over the past 18 months so that we are now also doing consultancy for web accessibility, and that means that we actually do web audits to see if a website is accessible, and also work with other web agencies, digital agencies, and other in-house digital departments to train them in web accessibility, because our mission is to make the UK digitally inclusive by 2025. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
That's brilliant, and that sounds like a fantastic target, Caren. Absolutely. So that's great. So I guess the obvious question and the best place to start is, what is an accessible website?
An accessible website, in a nutshell, is a website that can be used by everyone. And that means that it can also be used by people with special access needs. Now, people may be asking, what are special access needs? You have to imagine somebody who has got a sight impairment or is even blind. They may use assistive technology. And to be able to access the information on the website and to actually engage with it, the person cannot see it, so they use assistive technology. And the website needs to have the setup and also the coding tags and labels to be compatible with that assistive technology. And most websites, unfortunately, are not. And so that's a big oversight. It also is for people who have cognitive impairments, like Callum is autistic, or people that are dyslexic. They need certain fonts that they can read. Otherwise, they get distracted by fancy fonts, serif fonts that have loads of curls on them. Or if you write in italics, they just cannot take in that information because they cannot read fonts like that. So fonts need to be sans serif, they need to be a certain size, the text needs to be spaced in a certain way so that people can read it and take it in and process it. There are other things like keyboard navigation. People who have a disability, a physical disability, or cannot use a mouse or trackpad, they need to use the keyboard to get around the website. Now, unfortunately, you see that a lot, that when you use the tab key to get around a website, you may be moving, but you may not know where actually you are on the website because there is no focus. So an accessible website would have a focus all the time. When you press the tab key, you can see exactly where you are on the website. And also if there are links, they get highlighted so that you know when you click the enter key, you are actually entering that link and go to another page. these are just a few examples. There's a lot more that an accessible website has, but these are basic examples for people to understand, really. For businesses, it's really important, because imagine you have a shop, a physical shop, and you put loads of obstacles, an obstacle course in front of your entrance, and then only the fittest can get through and access your shop. I mean, would you want to ignore the other customers that are not so fit, that cannot go through that obstacle course, or don't want to go through that obstacle course, or with cognitive impairments where you actually have to solve a quiz or puzzle before you can enter the shop. So your website is your shop window now, because we are in the digital age. COVID has actually made all that a lot quicker. That we've been sort of propelled into the digital age, and it's really important that businesses realize that they should have a website that is accessible or user-friendly to everybody, to all their target audience, to all their customers.
So in terms of the scale of potential people that they are putting barriers in front, or your obstacles, as the great analogy you've used there, do you have any idea of kind of what percentage of people that could be affected?
Oh, yes. Let's say in the UK, we've got 68 million people in the population. 20%, that's about 14 million, are registered as disabled. And so you could say that 1 in 5 of your potential customers is ignored if you have an inaccessible website. So that is a huge amount of people, really. But if you see it in the wider sense, they have got friends and family as well that would support a website that is accessible. And the BBC has actually done a study in 2017, and they have come up with the purple pound, which is the spending power of disabled people and their friends and families, their circle, is about 249 billion pounds a year in the UK. That's what it's worth in the UK economy. And then we have another report that we always refer to, that is the Click-Away Pound report. And that Click-Away Pound report has found that businesses lose a potential 17.1 billion pounds a year when users click away from websites that they cannot get to grips with. That is not just disabled visitors. That is really anybody who cannot, use the website that they're sitting in front of.
Absolutely. Now, my next question was about like the benefits of businesses to have an accessible website, but I think you pretty much answered that really with that, just in pure numbers and things like that. I mean, without getting too technical on these things, how does Google and I guess any search engine look at websites in terms of accessibility? What does it look at that element?
Google doesn't look specifically at accessibility, but Google will always prefer an accessible website, because the best practices for search engine optimization are very much aligned with the best practices of accessibility, because Google looks at user friendliness of a website, and an accessible website is user friendly for everyone. So Google will always prioritize that. Also, the content has to be clear for cognitively impaired people. You have to be very concise with your information, and Google likes that too. So you can say an accessible website will be favored by Google.
Well, absolutely, that makes sense. So, I mean, one of the things you mentioned there about your aim of digitally inclusive by 2025, I think you said.
That's right, yeah.
So how do you think you can achieve that? Because that's quite a big goal, Caren. Good on you for having one, but how do you think you can do that?
It is a big goal, but we really want to set ourselves a proper target and not just say, oh, we want to improve the digital inclusivity in the UK, because it really is. If you have a goal like that, 2025, then you feel, driven really work towards that. And the way we want to do that, because Caren and Callum cannot do that on their own, so we have decided to give, very good tips on our website and on our LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is our main social media platform, and on how people can check whether the website is accessible or not, and also what they can do then to make it accessible. And one of the things that we are doing is, if somebody, for example, has checked their website and has found that, for example, they cannot navigate it through a keyboard, then they may come to us and say, what do I do now? So the first thing we would always ask is, do you have a web developer? And most people say yes, of course. And most people, if they have a web developer and they had them for years, they don't really want to change the web developer. And so we then say, okay, we can work with your web developer, see what knowledge he or she has, and then we can advise them on how to actually make the website accessible. That is a chargeable service, but it is still, quite a good option, because the web developer will learn on the job on how to do it in future. And so, once we have shown the web developer the basics, he can then maintain the site as an accessible website. And we do the same with web agencies, digital agencies, and in-house digital departments at bigger companies, where we go in and we do an audit of the site. Sometimes they're big audits, and then we create a report with guided notes for the web developers to how to actually make the site accessible. And then we will also be there to guide the web developer through phone calls, or if they want Zoom calls on how to do things, be there as a sounding board and as an advisory service. And we go into web agencies, digital agencies, and other companies to train. So we have certain training courses that we have available that we do at the moment via Zoom, but we're hoping to soon be able to go back to face-to-face training. So it's basically wanting to share our knowledge so that other agencies can offer the same service. We don't want to hog this as a monopoly, because that wouldn't make sense at all. Because this is our business, is not just a business, it's also an advocacy.
That makes perfect sense, Caren. It kind of was one of the questions I had as well, is obviously that goal of digital inclusivity by 2025, as you quite rightly said, you can't just do it you two on your own. So the type of people you will be working with, I thought it was really important to kind of hear who that would be. So if anyone is listening, watching to this, to maybe contact you and see how you could work together, I'm sure you'd be keen to do that. Now, I guess for definitely for me, and I'm sure anybody watching this, or many people watching this, should I say, considering accessibility for your website is something you've probably just not thought of. So do you think that, I guess the biggest hurdle to that, to try and what you achieve is not people not wanting to do it, but people not thinking about it or not knowing that it's a thing? Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely, yes. Callum and I have spent the last 10 months to actually really making people aware of this, because you cannot force people into, like something that they don't understand. So the first thing always, if you want to change things, is education. And so we are actually wanting to make people aware of all the facts of accessibility, so that they then actually want to have an accessible web platform, because it makes so much sense from a business point of view, because there is a legal aspect to it as well. The Equality Act 2010 also stipulates that you cannot discriminate against disabled people by not allowing them access to your website. But most people don't know that, and it's not really enforced in the UK, whereas in the USA it is, and litigation has gone up by 600% over there. So, but the UK, we are different over here, so we're not seeing that come in, but the government has already put guidelines on and fines actually for public services companies. They had to have an accessible web platform by September 2020, and if they haven't, now they're opening themselves up for fines from the government. And with the COVID situation, this will come in the private sector as well. But the most important thing that I would say about accessibility is that it should not be a tick box exercise. It is actually a process. It is a process where businesses open themselves up to a wider audience by having an open conversation with people that have special access needs. And this open conversation can be triggered through an accessibility statement. You know, where you have your privacy policy and everything on the website, you should have an accessibility statement there as well, which clearly says, we are thinking about accessibility and we are thinking of changing our website to be accessible. This is what our website can do at the moment. This is what we're working on. If you come across anything that you cannot access, please contact us on this email address, on this telephone number, and we will try and find a solution for you. And that is also accessibility, because it means you are open for people to contact you and say, look, I'm really interested in your company, but I cannot get to grips with your website. And then they know where to go and to contact you. And then you have that conversation with them over the phone, over Zoom, depending on, you know, like what kind of access difficulty that person has. And I think that is really, really important to know as well. But also, if you design, if you are a business that is looking to have a new website, if you design and develop the website from scratch as an accessible website, then really it is not that expensive. For example, we don't charge more to do an accessible website, because for us it is standard. We are starting with accessibility regulations as the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and we are keeping to them from the start. So it's not more work for us, because we know them so well, to design and develop accessible websites. So having that option, and we have, obviously, you know, we have packages to suit startup companies, micro businesses, SMEs, larger companies. So we have different packages there as well, so that we have something for, you know, for every budget, really.
Absolutely. So I guess for anyone watching this, that like you said, it's not just a tick box exercise. I guess it's like anything. It's a process. It's a starting point. And so if someone has their own website now, is there a few kind of, I guess, quick wins, nice and easy things that they can maybe just slightly change on their website that will help? It might not be the whole way that you want it to go, but you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? So is there any kind of few little things that people could maybe do?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is really the keyboard accessibility, because by making it keyboard accessible, you also often, you know, like it goes into the compatibility with screen readers and with assistive technology. So that's a good one. And to actually to get there, it shouldn't be too difficult for a good web developer to change that. They just need to Google a bit or contact us for a little bit of advice, and then they should be able to do that. Another thing is, don't make your text too small. Don't use fancy fonts, and try and be, you know, like put bullet points in your text. Make sure that your images have alternative text, which means that you know, for example, in WordPress, it's very easy. WordPress gives you, if you click on an image in your media library, you click on there and it has an alt text box, and you put in a description of that image in that box, so that a screen reader for a blind person can pick up and read out to that blind person that description of the image, rather than it saying graphic, graphic, graphic.
Perfect, Caren. No, I mean, firstly, thank you so much for your time. If anyone does want to find out more about the work you guys do or want to contact you, where are the best places to do that?
I think the best place is probably our website, which is KreativeInc Agency, which is creative starts with a K, not a C, and then the Inc is a C at the end. So Creative Inc Inclusion, it really stands for KreativeInc Agency, all one word, .co.uk. Or you can contact me on LinkedIn as Caren with a C, Loudest Gamble. So yeah, that's I think probably people can see my name, can't they?
Yeah, yes, they can.
Well,
well,
yeah.
that's the thing as well. Yeah, the other thing, Caren, is obviously if anyone does want to get hold of you for whatever reason, I'm sure they will be able to find you. Please come direct to me or to the Northern Affinity, and we can pass you on to Caren. So
yeah.
No, it's been fantastic. I've just seen a comment from Lauren saying definitely opened her eyes to things she wouldn't have thought about before when creating web pages. So that's great to hear. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
But we also have to stress that Callum and I are always open to have a conversation. Like, don't come to us and think you have to commission us. We're always open to have a conversation with you and give you advice.
Perfect, Caren. Thank you very much. No, I really, really appreciate your time. And I know you guys are doing so much great work, obviously speaking to yourself, and I speak to Callum as well. It's fantastic. So well done. And, thank you everyone for watching. Like I said, if anyone's watching this afterwards, please do, if you've got questions for Caren, should be more than happy to listen to that. So yeah, thank you everyone for your time. Really appreciate it, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.